Hello, welcome to this dual commentary by me, Redman Mark, and Dominus Noctis on the map Convergence. Today our players are Wolf, who is green and is the minion at the top, and in the bottom we have Defiant, who is white and is Romulan. Now this is great, we've seen a very similar game as before when they've both been these races, and we saw that Defiant went for Spectre refits straight away. We went for the generics first and Spectre refits, and of course we saw Wolf slowly take over the whole entire map, which he does generally love to do no matter what race he is, even Borg, which is a game that I will show you one day about that. And on to Dominus.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have a research institute coming up for Romulans, and you can see that that means that we're going to probably go directly into Griffins or Leavals, something like that. And we'll probably have a yard coming up right here at the Dilithium Moon. Dominion has gone for an eco-heavy start. Wolf is going to probably produce his yard now, and you can see a construction yard, small construction yard, very typical stuff. I want to see a constructor head out to the expansion already. Hopefully, maybe he'll take the middle, maybe he'll take one of these sides. This is the natural expansion, will allow him to get more resources and get a nice position above these asteroid belts so that he can attack this Dilithium Moon over here.
Again, something you have irritated in games before this is that if you are the Dominion and you are going to go for 2 yards or a fast expansion, your first construction out of your starbase should head to your expansion. So that way there is no time lost by the time you get your build up, which is something that players still to this very day aren't doing. Right, Dom?
Yep, so one thing I'll notice right here is that Defiant is researching phase plates immediately. This is a very interesting decision. He decided to get Research Institute for some reason early on and not a yard, even though he seems to be going Rien. It is possible that this is because he hadn't yet scouted Dominion yet, so he didn't know what faction his opponent was, and he didn't know what units were going to be produced. And of course we see bugs coming out. And, well, bugs can be countered by Leavals. They can also be countered by Riens because bugs are small, they're medium, and they've got ADAI, which is countered by support ships like the Leaval as well.
Before I make a dig, which I'm not going to, actually I'm a big dig, I don't believe that's the best position for that shipyard in the least. I know he's about to get his miners in there quicker for repair, but my god, it's not defended by anything.
For which faction are we thinking?
The Romulan, which has it sitting at his diving moon very far away from his
So that's always a metagame style of thing, where if you want to really put a yard up front like this, that means that you're banking on the early game. Whereas in the later game, it can be advantageous to have that yard next to the starbase. That way it won't get killed off in a raid. Now he is Romulan, so he does have much better scouting. So theoretically, he should be able to tell when an attack is coming and be able to defend his yard. So for Romulans, for a cloaking faction, it's not that big a deal when you're against a non-cloaking faction. But we'll see if he's able to make use of that cloak very well. We can see that Dominion Wolf has already expanded to this right side of the map. This is an interesting position. It's not as easy to defend. You see that there are these asteroid belts on the opposite side, which prevents you from moving directly across. So it's a further traveling distance here, but it is a little bit of a shock value. You might not know that it would be there. But of course, against a Romulan opponent, you will know it's there.
I can say he does know it's there because I saw his scout over there.
Yes.
Briefly. Yes.
And we see a Leavall queued up after these 2 Riens. So that's going to be very strong against those attack destroyers, which are no longer in the queue. Instead, we have a B8, which is a pretty good counter against most Romulan things.
If it is me, I would expand it to the left side of the map, to be honest. It's much more aggressive expansion. Much closer to the Romulan's base, and it's just a better spot in my opinion. This is very annoying because when these ships get sent to repair, sometimes I've got a feeling they're going to try and go to that one on the far right instead of going to the main base, which is a long distance to travel across the map. Also, he's built his yard again in what I would say is a very questionable position. It's right on the right side of the moon. It would have been better placed a bit further down, so it's more easier for his miners to get in there and repair, and also not as far for his titanium ones when he finally gets there to go up and repair.
Now, we should mention that Dominion yards, the ships come in through the bottom, so if he really wanted to put it onto the top of the moon, it would be just about as far as it would be if he put it on the side of the moon. So I don't think this yard position is all that bad, really. As you can see over here, there is quite a big difference in the moon placement over here, and you see it's about the same distance, so your stuff can make it in pretty easily. We see that Romulan's Defiant has gone and taken this Tritanium. You notice he's quite low on Tritanium, and he's producing a Tritanium heavy ship, which is a Leoval, and this Griffin here is a Dilithium heavy ship. So he has a nice mix of ships right now, some Riens, some soon-to-be Griffin and Leoval, and this will allow him to counter quite a few different things. So we'll see what his reaction is once he sees these B8s coming out.
The Ryans are going to be great for tanking if he keeps them in the right position against those B8s once they turn first takes on. Of course, the Val, its basic one is also a repair, so again it'll be a good tank. And the Griffins with their sensor jammer will blind the Dominion. So yeah, you're right, it's got a very nice mix. It's very micro-intensive fleet, but a good fleet. So if you can manage that, it'll give him a very strong uphold here. Of course, micromanagement is one of the hardest things in fleet ops.
Apparently there might be some bug where Wolf hit repair and his ship moved down, perhaps. I'm not sure what's going on there. We'll hear about it after the game. But we can see this bug is dead. It needs to use its explosion right now. Right now. Right now. Okay. Apparently not. If it used collision, it could do a little bit of damage, maybe take out a subsystem and keep a Rien there for quite some time. I will note that Mark calls them rinds, which is my personal pet peeve, given that rinds are things that you peel off apples and other fruit.
I like apples. It's probably one of the few things I still own in this world.
So we have our first Leoval, which would counter that bug if we still had bugs, but instead we have B8s. But a Leoval is a good raiding ship, has burst fire damage, can prevent things from getting in yards. We have quite a few B8s coming out. We see that he's low on supply. He will have to buy the first time. A lot of players make the mistake of putting up their supply stations or catcher cell synthesizers right away. And generally, as Dominion, you can get away with buying twice unless you go for a large yard, in which case you do need to get your catcher cell synthesizers up pretty quickly. There was just a research that finished out of the Research Institute. By any chance, did you see what it was, Mark? Ah, it seems like it was the auto repair systems for the Leoval.
Right, I am back. The silence.
Vanishing.
I didn't vanish. I was having a mere discussion with the guests in my house. Right, the game with the Romulans, what's really nice here is the Romulans are actually expanding, which is very nice. They've got the Tritanium at the back, which means that they do a Tritanium heavy build, like the Laval. They've got spare Tritanium. And again, you know, Romulans generally do need to expand. They're one of the slowest expanders in this game, apart from the Borg, usually, in my opinion, compared to Klingon Doms or Feds. So it's nice to see. If he can get his resources up, it'd be great. It's much better play for Defiant here, because last time we didn't expand too much or too fast. So this is nice. It's nice play. I'm happy about this.
We see a phaser sentry coming up for Dominion, for Wolf over here. This will give them a little bit more protection. They do much more against shields than they do against hull, so this will allow them to strip that hull very quickly and able to use those B8s to capture things. We saw that there was a little bit of capturing going on earlier. Nothing got there. I want to criticize Defiant for his choice of attack positions. I really want to see him to go after these Tritaniums, really harass the Dominion for this position, because attacking next to a yard, you saw that 2 miners were easily able to get back into here. We do need to see another miner on this yard though, so I hope that he'll eventually put that one up there.
What's really interesting is people, I know what it is with players at the moment, they have a habit of moving their scout somewhere and just leaving it sitting there as if they're going to wait for the player to get there. I'd like to see the scouts move around a lot more than what they do, especially the Talon. It's a good scout, it can hide. But waiting by a move isn't, and for a ship to come isn't always the best way to go about it. You want to see what they're building when they're moving out, for their fleets, so you know what your other player's up to.
On that note, Defiant has built one other Talon, and he's building a third one right now. So he should just place this one on guard on one of these ships. I think it is actually on guard, but he didn't put it on green alert, so it won't chase as long as there's an enemy ship in the field of view. We can see that other Talon over here keeping a dib on what the ships are being produced. We see a bomber, a prototype being produced. This will be anti-Leoval. Leovals are, of course, short range, and bombers are anti-short range. So I want to see more Riens come out of here later on to counter those long-range ships, to do more damage to them. and to just generally tank, because these guys have nice faceplates. You can see that he's going around cloaked all the time, and he's very low energy. This is quite bad for a Romulan player. You need a singularity, or you need to stay uncloaked in order to use these abilities, because otherwise these Rans are just dead in the water. And he has no second yard up here either.
Look at that. He knew exactly where he was going.
We see another lay of all coming out of the yard.
Not decloaking yet. Interesting. I guess he knows he can't take on those B8s, really.
Well, he just decided to, and he saw the sensor jammer go off, so he had just enough energy for that. I find it interesting that he's going after this lay of all first, which has auto repair, which he just used, and he shouldn't be able to capture that. He should be able to use cloak just now. Oh my, he's not using cloak, and he just lost his lay of all. This is very bad news. And these Rans are going to be close to follow because they have very, very low hit points, and they're not very strong against these B8s in general because of their small size, so they're bad against pulses.
Can I just say how nicely it is to see someone use the B8 special? How many retakes have we done with Dominion and people have built B8s and we've never ever seen a battle transporter used at all?
It is micro intensive to use, so that can be a lot of the cases. It is absolutely nice to see that, especially against those low crude units like this lay of all. And you can see that I don't think it will make it back to the yard. If this Talon sees it decloak, it would be very nice to recapture it.
Again, so I'm going to point out why I can, is that when he decloaked and used his sensor jammer, you'll notice he kept his fleet right inside the B8, which basically means his sensor jammer was partly useless. Because, of course, though the sensors are disabled, they're not off completely. They can have a limited sight of view. So by having his fleet bunch up in the middle there, they were still firing and still attacking his fleet as if he hadn't used sensor jammer. You're doing better off keeping out of range, and that way he wouldn't have got so many shots fired at him because he wouldn't have been able to see the ships. Just going to throw that peep out there. Carry on.
Yep. So we will see that Defiant is still keeping all of his ships cloaked, which is not so good when he doesn't have that much energy. You still notice only 53 out of that 135, 59 out of 245. He won't be able to use these sensor jammers again. He just decloaked now, so this is nice. I hope that he keeps them decloaked. That lay of all finally made it back into here. It's going to repair. It's going to mean that he's going to get a nice cloaking scout.
Fine. I'm just going to pause you for 2 seconds. Is that if you notice on the right side of the map, which majority catches, Defiant didn't lose all of those mining vessels, and he is very cleverly re-establishing a new mining in a very different place where I don't think, I don't suspect that Wolf will notice too quick or too soon, because he wouldn't have thought Defiant would do that.
Absolutely, and if he does notice, I think that prototype is going to notice, and well, you know, that would tell me as a Romulan player that I need to go out and harass that.
What about Romulan player, actually? Up there, on the right side of the map, just below the expansion of the Wolves. Very bottom. Can you see it? The constructor, 3 miners, chilling out by the Dilithium moon.
Which one are we talking about? Yes, I've seen that before. So I will notice that Wolf has started his Ketracel synthesizers up here while we were busy talking, so he now has all the supply he needs in the world. And he wasn't able to kill any of these B8s. Defiant wasn't able to kill any of these B8s. So this is a very sad day for the Romulan Empire. Hopefully we'll see these miners rebuilt because, of course, we have very low dilithium over here. And he can't even build a mining station yet. He should be able to just barely afford one, I believe.
Actually, he can.
There we go.
He can afford a mining one.
Our bombers are out in full production. This means that lay of alls are going to be practically useless now, so hopefully we'll see a switch into something else. He does need to kill those B8s in order to switch into something. Preferably if he targets that prototype, he will be able to stop that production entirely so that he will just basically cut off Dominion from ever being able to build those B8s again without that lack of dilithium, without that supply. So these miners already need to fill up on this moon over here. That way they can easily move into this queue right away. They don't have to wait for each other.
And he's doing that now, which is good. Which is very nice to see. Start off a bit sooner, because it's going to be a bit of a delay there now. He's still got one mine that's not moved at all when it's empty, so he should get that on mining as well. He'll probably do it after.
So I'd like to see a tech lab go up pretty soon. There isn't enough dilithium. You need 600 dilithium. But he does bank a lot of Tritanium, and this will allow him to get Cloak Detect, which would be excellent in these situations. Probably those Romulan fleets will never be able to escape again. You notice how many of them were escaping very rarely, or in any case, because he had that firepower. But now that Romulans are getting up more and more of these Griffins, it's going to be harder and harder to kill them as quickly as you can.
Yeah, another thing I'm going to point out is that at Defiant's main dilithium moon in his main base, he's only got 2 miners there, and if you look, he's got a massive surplus of Tritanium, nearly 2k. He should really pull one of his miners away from his Tritanium mining and put it onto dilithium, because he's just got so much.
We can see these bombers are harassing this newly performed mining station over here. Romulans are not moving from a spot. They know exactly where the Dominion is, and they can't do anything about it. So we've got even the prototype attacking here. Very vulnerable situation. I'm hoping this other Leoval notices and joins the fleet.
I'm hoping he uses that sensor weapon on the Griffins in turn. That'd be great. Oh no,
I think Defiant is deciding that he can't take this. And you notice that he still doesn't have the energy for Sensor Jammer because he doesn't have a singularity, and he never decloaked his ships for long enough. So he just won't have enough energy. He won't be able to save this yard. I think this is going to be the end of the game.
Yeah, he's left that poor Laval there as well, sitting there watching his base get destroyed. There's probably must be like, we want to do something for the Empire, and we can't. So they're just going to sit there and watch as if they're watching a film.
Oh, and Wolf very cleanly pulled back that constructor just as it was building this thing, so he recuperated the resources without losing them from building that. Same with this phaser platform. I'm not sure where Defiant plans to go next. Probably to this expansion, but I'm not sure if he knows there's a phaser platform there. I'd like him to head over here if he wants to really make a difference in terms of harassment. You can see that Defiant has already lost his entire mining station here. One of his miners, the other ones are back down here. Defiant is re-expanding again, but this is a little bit too late.
Nice that Defiant is actually moved upwards, which is great, because that's what we wanted to see. He's going for the much easier target rather than the brick wall with the phaser sentry over there.
So what we missed during this entire stretch was that Defiant took the time to tech up to Spectres. So he's hoping to use that damage reduction from the refractive shield passive against these B8s, and he's probably hoping eventually to use the special itself, which I don't think he's researched, even though he has the Tritanium, to deal with all of those pulses, which negates entirely all the pulses. But he won't get the chance because this yard is going to be either captured or destroyed.
What I would have liked to have seen, I know it's got a phase entry there, but that's to change him at the top of those supply mining stations. I'd like to have seen him go up there actually. Very vulnerable target. I know it's got a phase entry, but it would have been too long to destroy that.
Well, at this point, I think Wolf doesn't really care what's going on. He didn't let these miners go back home. He's only retreating them now after they've been dying quite a bit. Defiant is unleashing a balance concern, I believe, or possibly what he wanted to start with. We can see that these bombers are still going to survive, and I think Defiant is going to soon tap out for this. We see quite a fleet of bombers over here, can easily deal with this fleet on its own.
Yep, I would like to see that fleet move up to the top, honestly. If he's going to keep harassing, he might as well. Yeah, he's moving up. There we go. That's what I wanted to see.
We see Tetrian Photon Torpedo, so no cloak detect, just the ability for these bombers to strike anywhere.
Do you think Spectre refits at the beginning would have made much of a difference? That's what Defiant's saying. He should have gone Spectre from the beginning. How do you think that would have helped?
I don't really think so. I think that he could have taken the opportunity to harass more efficiently in the beginning, to expand more, to out-resource the Dominion player, and that would have helped more. Spectres takes a while to get up to. You'll only have 1 or 2 Spectres by the time there are 4 or so B8s, and those B8s can easily kill these miners without having to worry about the Spectres at that time.
So what would you say the weakness was here? Was it bad scouting, bad micro? He just let Wolf take over too much of the map? What do you think? I don't think he instantly built actually bad units. He had a mixed fleet. I'm going to say it was definitely letting Defiant, Wolf expands so much.
I think the choice of staying cloaked all the time hurt him very badly. He wasn't able to use those special weapons, and Romulans really need their special weapons in these situations. That was one of the major concerns I had with that. The other position was that Defiant just wasn't expanding enough. He could have had a second yard up if he had expanded to one of these other dilithium moons. Kept eyes on that. He didn't really need 3 talons early on. That did drain his resources a bit. I do commend him on his effort for trying to get all that scouting, but really, since the Dominion was 1 fleeting, he only really needs 1 scout or 2 at the most. 1 to spot that yard, the other 1 to spot the fleet and where it's going.
Yeah, and again, something else you mentioned about cloak ships. Again, with Levals, it's very important that if you're going to use that special, and something I like to do these days is that if you're going to send your Leval cloaked out into repair, once it's away from the battle, just decloak it, and in the meantime, let it get special energy back up, because it's not going to be attacked once it's away from the battle. So you might as well just let it go back nicely home and get all that energy back up, because it does take a bit of a while.
So Wolf's B8s are probably going to head down here, attack this Tritanium. I don't know if he ever spotted this Tritanium down here. I can't remember where... there his scout. So he probably hasn't scouted that yet. You can see that Romulans rebuilt their yard over here, but they only have 1 dilithium. And again, this constructor needs to go around, needs to expand. He needs to take risks. It only takes about a minute to recuperate all the dilithium you put into making a single expansion with that 1 miner attached. So it's not very long to do any of that. And if you have 3 miners on there, maybe take you another minute to recuperate that. But since you're earning about 450 dilithium per minute when you have a full expansion, it's far worth it to expand into dangerous areas than to not expand at all. And we can see this massive B8 fleet, or bomber fleet. I think that we're going to see these bombers move into here, annihilate everything, and then move into the starbase and deliver that that mean coup de grace.
I honestly think Wolf has actually, to this very day, still noticed that mining at the bottom left corner, which is so funny, because he's been so close to it so many times.
Right. You're most likely right about that. I never saw that scout go down there, so it's quite likely he never spotted that in the first place. And we can see that this special is probably going to go off now. There it goes. Take down that station as fast as possible. He's probably going to switch targets pretty soon after killing this. He really wants to kill that yard so that he doesn't have to worry with things going into here and repairing.
No, it's that on Wolf's side, he didn't, on Defiant's side, sorry, he didn't use the Griffin special at all. And the reason for that is he had literally no special energy because he left them cloaked for so long. Even those Griffins decloaked, they provided no help really from a bit of firepower because they couldn't get special. And he had 3 of them, so he could have cycled it internally and let them recharge. Which is such a shame. But there you go, we do have the GG for Gobbled Gaming, and we shall see this game play out, and maybe, just maybe, we might have a game interview after this. You'll have to wait and see and find out.
Alright, good night ladies and gentlemen.
Hello there, and it seems like you are going to get a player interview after all. So, you are joined by me, Redman Mark, Dominus Nocturus, Defiant, who was the white player, and Wolf, who was the green player. And we shall start off with how the players feel it went. So, Wolf, how do you feel that went? Seeing that you're the winner.
I just want to say transportation attack for the win.
Yes, that
my
was
new favorite button.
It was very nice to see someone actually use the transport attack on a B8. It's not something we see very often, and if you watch the replay, you'll see I did say it was nice.
No, my plan was not to expand too fast this time, like I tend to, and to make bigger ships earlier. And then, I think when I actually started with Laval was emotionally killing.
Yeah, you did. You say you didn't want to expand very fast. I'd say you definitely expanded as fast as per usual. You are very good at that. You are the parasite of a gameplay. Is that a grill? No. Defiant, how do you feel it went?
As I mentioned whilst in game, as you may have seen from the chat, was I probably should have done Spectres at the start. They wouldn't have been hammered so badly. But I feel my scouting was pretty much as good as it could have been. Apart from losing, I feel it went okay.
Going on to that, Dominus, since you are our resident expert on gameplay, Do you feel a Spectre would have helped or made any difference at the very beginning?
Well, as I said in the actual gameplay portion of this, I don't believe it would have. You would have only had maybe 1 or 2 Spectre by the time there were 3 or 4 B8s, and those B8s could have just slaughtered the mining in the meantime. It's very difficult to start with Spectre against a Dominion player who goes B8s. It's much better to have those Leovols and Griffins attacking in a vulnerable position. Attacking next to a yard is not a very good location to attack, and you need to expand. You need to out-expand that Dominion player. That way you're able to get a second yard at your own expansion. That way you can cycle repair all the time.
Yeah, it is very interesting to see you, Wolf. You do expand very fast in every race you are, even the Borg, though people won't see that particular gameplay, as you know. And Defiant, of course, it's very interesting because you don't expand as fast as a normal player. You're a more conservative one, tends to raid around to base and then go out and attack. It's a very interesting gameplay on both points of view. And I'm not too sure, I guess in the beginning I would have raided more on the Wolf side, but again it was very good to see the talons come out. You had 3 talons, so you definitely were scouting more. It's very nice to see, and yeah, I think good scouting all in all. Very interesting placement of your prototype there, Wolf, by the way. Setting it to the other side. This is when Dominus throws in a question, because Dominus knows more.
I have no questions at all.
Oh, Dominus, you're
I am
awful.
sleepy. So
Yes, Dominus
sleepy.
was very sleepy in that game. He erred a lot, which is very interesting. No, it was a good game, guys. I was quite impressed by each play actually. I guess Defiant's strongest race is Klingon. I'd love to see in our next game if Defiant went Klingon and Wolf went Dominion. I thought they're both your strongest races from what I've seen so far. So would you be willing to do a game like that in the future, even though you like to go random?
I would like to try that, and I would like just to mention, for the record, my worst race of all time does happen to be Romulans. I'm not making excuses, it is the worst I play.
Wolf, would you be up for that?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Didn't hear his reply. He did say he'd be up for that. I'm not putting words in his mouth. So we're going to say goodbye very quickly because Dominus is tired. So we're not going to get as much as an interview as I'd like, but it's cool. Dominus is tired, so I'm going to let him shoot off. So in our next replay with Defiant and Wolf, we shall let them both choose their best races and see how to, what I'd argue are very good players at their favourite races. Should hopefully be a head-to-head, very fun game.
Alrighty, and with that we end our player interview, and we have Mark talking for about 90% of the time, and I will go to sleep inside this replay. Good